So in the past, we've talked a lot about how we load the right side of the body in the golf swing. And what we're going to talk about today is what happens once we get the body loaded. Is there a transition? What happens in that transition? And more importantly, how can we use both ground reaction forces and the geometry of the arms to aid you in creating way better positions at impact? All right, so we're ready to talk about the transition in the golf swing. So when we talk about the transition, we first have to go ahead and complete the backswing. So when we say complete the backswing, what we want to do is we want to think about a couple key positions or a couple key things for each and every golfer that they can focus on. And one of the big focuses that we want to have at the top of our swing is that we want to make sure that we feel that we have the pressure underneath our right foot. I still can feel my left foot on the ground. It's not inactive. I don't have my left knee collapsed, but I definitely feel the pressure on my right foot, which is definitely a cue for me in my golf swing. Another big cue for me is feeling as if I create a lot of twist in my T-spine or in my left kind of shoulder moving around my spine. So once again, I don't want my left side of my body collapsing towards the target, creating a reverse pivot scenario. Rather, I want to feel like I've really created a nice spiral and a big twist all the way from the ground to the tippy top of my head. I want to feel like the whole thing has twisted all the way, and now I'm ready for my transition. So one of the biggest things we see in transition is that the golf club tends to either want to get too shallow or too steep for most players. So when we say too shallow, what that would look like is if we get to the top of the swing and we drop the shaft down this way so we can see that the club shaft is getting more level or parallel to the ground, and that would be getting more shallow. Just like from here, if I was to increase, okay, you can see here where the club head is getting steeper, and now I'm getting more across the plane or out to in is another way we could say that. So for a lot of people, the transition tends to cause a lot of problems, and those problems tend to be from too much use in the wrist or the elbows. And what we want to do is we want to keep the relationship we started with the wrist and elbows throughout this transition. So what is that relationship? Well, pretty simple. The left hand is higher on the golf club than the right hand. So the right wrist, elbow, and shoulder all need to be lower than the left wrist, elbow, and shoulder. So now when I think about that, I get to the top of my golf swing and my right arm is still underneath my left arm. And what I want to do in transition is I want to maintain that same relationship with my right arm staying underneath my left arm. That's very, very important. So we want to keep the right arm staying underneath the left arm. Now, when we talk about this right arm staying underneath the left arm, what we tend to see is that people, in effort to try to do that and stop being steeper in transition, they tend to start dropping the right leg, and then what we see is that the right knee kind of wants to work more from heel to toe this way. And that's really not an effective way, and that is not going to get us into the position that we want to be in to deliver this golf club. And what tends to happen is when we drop the right side of the body, the whole plane of the golf club moving through time and space drops as well. And when that occurs, what we tend to find is that low point happens too early, and now we have to hang on to the wrist angles to try not to hit the ground too soon. So we can see how that causes a lot of issues in transition. So what about for my friends out there who are too steep and battle being over the top? Well, for them, I think a lot of the time what tends to happen is that they create too much lift with their arms in their backswing, meaning that the left side kind of drops down, the left knee goes towards the target, and the hands go up. And now the shaft we can see is too vertical, and now anything they do to try to add speed is only going to lead to the club getting steeper. So for those friends, I would go back to the beginning of this video and look at those two checkpoints we talked about at the top of the swing. Because by creating more turn, that's going to give us more depth and allow for us to be able to once again be able to twist and turn out of the right foot. And that's really important to match with this good geometry, which is simply the right arm staying underneath the left arm in transition without dropping the right hip to accomplish that. So we've talked a lot about how that right leg really aids the arms in transition and the downswing. So we've also talked about how the right foot needs to be twisting versus working from heel to toe. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at that just a little bit closer because a lot of people struggle with this concept. So like we talked about, what we tend to see the most out of people is that the left knee moves towards the ball and the right knee moves away to offset that. And when we get into this position, it creates this reverse pivot to where I don't have any pressure on my trail side. So we can't really rotate out of the right foot if we didn't put any pressure or twist into it as well. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna hop up here on our Rotex machine, which is a great tool to help people understand this. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at how the right foot kind of twists back. Okay, so I've twisted, so I'm kind of twisting through the foot there in the ankle joint. So I'm twisting through that ankle. And now what I want to do once I get my right arm underneath my left and keep it there is we can see how the right foot twists towards the target and my kneecap also points more towards my target. So it's not moving towards the ball, but staying on plane and staying out of the way. And now it's much easier for me to accomplish this transition and downswing by using my right leg to twist in and out instead of back to front. So now that we've talked about some of the geometry in the arms, and we've talked about how the ground reaction forces affect that geometry, the last little bit we want to add in here is we want to make sure that we're not using too much wrist action throughout this process. Because what we tend to see is that people using a lot of wrist really have a hard time in transition because once they get to the top of the swing, they really feel like they have to throw it back out. If we really get this thing going back and in on us, we're really gonna feel the need to throw it back the other direction. So the last thing we wanna do is be taking the club up to the top and in transition feeling like the golf club is still trying to move towards the target. A really good idea here is to feel like we can get that golf club to stop at the top of our golf swing under control and then change direction. So for a lot of you with a super quick backswing, it might not be that you're moving your body too fast, it's probably that we have too much wrist set early on in the action. So we hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions or comments, let us know in the comment section below. We love to interact with people who watch our videos and try to give them some help as well. So thanks so much. Make sure to subscribe to this channel, and until next time, keep grinding.